It's a question about accounting and accountability, given that it may have been the use of US weapons. So it's a question about the State Department rather than Hamas. Is there any action to assess?
Every single thing that is happening in Gaza is happening because of Hamas. Every single dynamic. I'll say again, I've said it, I think, in every briefing. All of this could stop in a moment if Hamas returned all the hostages and the hostage bodies they are still holding and put down its weapons. There is one entity that could stop it for everyone in a moment, and that is Hamas. All loss of life is regrettable. It's key, obviously. Whoever it is, wherever they live, and this has been the nature of what fuels Secretary Rubio and President Trump in their willingness to expend this kind of capital early on in this term to make a difference and to change the situation. So I think that is the one thing that remains clear in all of this, which is all for all of us, which is why we work to stop it.
I know that's
a horrible dynamic. Yes, Humaira.
Questions on the Middle East. Number one, the Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara announced the formation of his new government, which includes a woman, an Alawite, a Druze, and a Kurd. Is this inclusive enough for this administration? And will you lift some sanctions? And also, I have a question on Iran. They're saying that they're not going to negotiate under pressure. So is there a time limit for them to come to the negotiation table? Is this any other options that the administration will consider?
All right, well, let me answer you about Syria, that we are aware of the announcement on Saturday of the interim authorities by the interim authorities of a transitional cabinet in Syria. We recognize the struggles of the Syrian people who have suffered decades under despotic rule and oppression of the Assad regime. And we hope this announcement represents a positive step for an inclusive and representative Syria. However, Syria's interim authorities should fully renounce and suppress terrorism, exclude foreign terrorist fighters from any official roles, prevent Iran and its proxies from exploiting Syrian territory, take meaningful steps to verifiably destroy Assad's chemical weapons, assist in the recovery of U.S. and other citizens who have been disappeared in Syria, and ensure the security and freedoms of Syria's religious and ethnic minorities. The United States will continue to assess the interim authorities' behavior and determine our next step. Assist in the recovery of U.S. and other citizens who have been disappeared in Syria, and ensure the security and freedoms of Syria's religious and ethnic minorities. The United States will continue to assess the interim authorities' behavior and determine our next step based on those actions. And you mentioned about sanctions. Any adjustment to U.S. policy towards Syria's interim authorities will be contingent on all of those steps being taken that I mentioned to you. And your other question was?
On Iran, they said they're not going to negotiate under pressure. So is this a time limit?
Yes. Iran's behavior across the globe threatens U.S. national interests, which is why President Trump reimposed the maximum pressure campaign designed to end Iran's nuclear threat, curtail its ballistic missile program, and stop it from supporting terrorist groups. As the president has said, Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. He has also been very clear that the United States can't allow that to occur. The president expressed his willingness to discuss a deal with Iran, as we know. If the Iranian regime does not want a deal, the president is clear he will pursue other options, which will be very bad for Iran. All right. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
On Gaza, the UN's Humanitarian Affairs Office has said that 15 paramedics, civil defense, and a UN worker were killed, in their words, one by one by the IDF. They have dug bodies up, they said, in a shallow grave that have been gathered up, and also vehicles in the sand. Have you got any assessment of what might have happened, and given the potential use of American weapons, is there any assessment of whether or not this complied with international law?
Well, I can tell you that for too long, Hamas has abused civilian infrastructure, cynically using it to shield themselves. Hamas's actions have caused humanitarians to be caught in the crossfire. The use of civilians or civilian objects to shield or impede military operations is itself a violation of international humanitarian law. And, of course, we expect all parties on the ground to comply with international humanitarian law.
But this is specifically a question on it's a question about accounting and accountability, given that it may have been the use of US weapons. So it's a question about the State Department rather than Hamas. Is there any action to assess?
Every single thing that is happening in Gaza is happening because of Hamas. Every single dynamic. I'll say again, I've said it, I think, in every briefing. All of this could stop in a moment if Hamas returned all the hostages and the hostage bodies they are still holding and put down its weapons. There is one entity that could stop it for everyone in a moment, and that is Hamas. All loss of life is regrettable. It's key, obviously. Whoever it is, wherever they live. And this has been the nature of what fuels Secretary Rubio and President Trump in their willingness to expend this kind of capital early on in this term to make a difference and to change the situation. So I think that is the one thing that remains clear in all of this, which is all for all of us, which is why we work to stop it.
I know that's
a horrible dynamic. Yes, Humaira.
Hi, Tammy. Just to follow up from Jenny, are you able to say if these deportations of alleged gang members, Venezuelans, are these going to continue? And while you can't say under which authority they were deported, are you able to say which authority they will be deported if there would be new ones?
No, I can't speculate.
Different way of
it's hypotheticals in a certain sense. Obviously, also, we have not announced who's on that plane. The details, I'm not going to accept the premise immediately of who is on that plane. That's not what I can do here at this podium. What I do know, again, is that every action that is taken by this administration is to fulfill the promise that elected them to office that the American people want, which is to have a safe community, which is to be able to live their lives knowing that perhaps the next day will come and that the future for their children and grandchildren will be maybe a little bit better than theirs has been. So this is that larger picture. But I'm not going to get into the details of a particular flight.
Are you able to say confidently that the TRO wasn't violated?
I'm not here to give you my legal opinion. I'm not a lawyer, or to speculate on what is or is not happening in any fashion in that regard. Yes, sir. With the glasses here.
Thank you, Tammy. Someday the State Department's going to make the mistake of hiring a lawyer to be a spokesperson, and then they're not going to be.
Well, then it would be even less interesting than mine.
Yes. Two questions for you. Number one, a few weeks after President Trump's Shalom Hamas tweet or social media post, Israeli authorities giving indication that they're preparing for a potential larger-scale military operation in Rafah, potential reoccupation of Gaza. I wanted to get some insight as to whether there is coordination between the U.S. and Israel on that front, whether the State Department takes a position on Israel's potential plans. The second question was, Israeli officials have been sounding the alarm about Egypt's military operations in Sinai, saying that it's a potential violation of the peace treaty between the two countries. Any position from the State Department in regards to Egypt's activities and whether they deem it a violation of the peace treaty?
Well, we never speak about ongoing diplomatic relationships, but we do have the pillars of our approach that remain resolute. We stand with Israel and we stand for peace. President Trump has made clear the consequences of what will happen if Hamas continues to hold hostages. I will leave it at that, but of course add in the fact that Secretary Rubio has been as aggressive in his rhetoric that Hamas cannot continue to exist, and again, that we stand with Israel and their efforts to defend themselves.
Back to Iran. Iran's president yesterday ruled out direct negotiations with the United States on its nuclear program. Was that what the United States is seeking, direct negotiations, or would the United States be open to third-party intermediaries?
We know, of course, that the Iranian regime has always been hostile to the United States and our allies and partners, and they are one of the leading state sponsors of terror, as we know. It supports Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and other terrorist networks. Iran's own Islamic Revolutionary Guards is a designated foreign terrorist organization, and many regime leaders have also been designated as terrorists. I can tell you that in negotiating, which I've already answered to some degree, is that the president's made it clear that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And what we want from them, as Secretary Rubio has said, under Donald Trump, there is not going to be a nuclear Iran. Iran must stop its nuclear escalations, its ballistic missile program, its networks and campaign of regional aggressive activities, its repression of the Iranian people's freedom, and the IRGC's destabilizing activities. I also think I can say this to you, that President Trump has been consistent and clear. The United States is determined to make sure that Iran will not acquire a nuclear weapon. He has expressed his willingness to pursue a deal with Iran. If the Iranian regime does not want a deal, as I said earlier, the president has other options, and those alternatives will be very bad for Iran.